Mic on.
All right, it is Wednesday night, time to do some world building. And believe it or not, tonight I'm not fooling around in Fantasy Grounds to load random encounter tables. I need a break from it, just as I'm sure most of y'all do. So, anyways, it's been a minute. Figured it's time to get the ball rolling again to get some world building done. So tonight, I'm going to focus on some of the economics side of my sci-fi and fantasy worlds, as well as the family groups and gender roles, just to kind of knock these out. Figured 3 topics this evening, all of which are not going to take a whole lot of time to flesh out the way I want to. I'm not going to get overly detailed. You know, the 30 Days of World Building by Angeline Trevina is a pretty good resource, but there's some details on it that I'm going to leave open and unfulfilled, shall we say, just because I want to have that flexibility later, and I don't want to get too bogged down and mired in the details, as they say. So anyways, let me get Chrome visible here if I can. Let's dive into currencies. Now, your typical D&D 5e, so we're looking at Fantasy World first. It's just force of habit. I do my fantasy first, then my sci-fi. Your typical D&D currencies: copper, silver, gold, electrum, platinum. Kind of more than I want to do. I really want to stick with gold, silver, and copper as your predominant currencies. I don't see any reason to mire it down excessively. I'm going to make that font a little bigger just for y'all to see, or zoom my browser window, shall we say. Not going to get into distribution of wealth, average wage, average cost of a meal. Okay, so D&D has some of these tables built into the Dungeon Master's Guide. I'm going to deviate from them a little bit. So we're going to look at, looking at D&D's cost meals per day, which that gets a little vague. Okay, so 3 meals per day. We're going to say per meal and then per day, just to break it up a little bit. So if a modest meal is 5 silver, 3 silver in a D&D campaign for the day, then we're going to go with 2/3 of that and go, it's going to be 2 silvers. Let's go ahead and designate these. So 2 silvers, and so we're going to follow the 10-10-10 rules. It takes 10 coppers to make a silver, 10 silvers to make a gold, in terms of currency conversions. So if it's 20 coppers to have 3 meals a day, we're going to say it's roughly 7 coppers a meal. So we're going to say 6 coppers for a single meal, single person. Average cost of a house: where is money kept? Where can it be invested? We're not going to get into the crazy stuff. I am going to list out here. Let's go with ale/wine. And this will be a mug/cup/glass. If a mug in D&D's parlance is going to be 4 coppers, we're going to make it 2 coppers in my universe, my world, my rules. And go with that. Stay at an inn. Okay, so if a modest inn is 5 silver a day, which would be 50 coppers, and we're going with 2/3, you know, 2/3 of 5. We've got to play rough calculation here. We'll say roughly 3 silver. And we're going to list these as modest meals. You know, the DMG tables vary from squalid, poor, modest, comfortable, wealthy, aristocratic. We're just hitting the middle of the road right now. Because when player characters are starting out, they're not going to be paying for the aristocratic rooms. When we get to epic level and we have to deal with that, then we'll deal with that. But, you know, your average adventurer wants a modest room, unless they're just absolutely piss poor broke, and then they'll take the poor or the squalid rooms. So, economic winners and losers. We'll leave those out. Other notes on economics. Writs. For traveling, large distances without the need to carry large sums of money. Okay, so, you know, historically the Knights Templar, you know, this is the reason a lot of the European nobles borrowed money from the Templars, but also the Templars were known for their writs. If you went to the Templars and you were traveling, say, to the Holy Land, you could get a writ. You could exchange your money for a writ, and then you could go to the Templars in the Holy Land and exchange that writ for cold hard cash, as we say, currency. That way you didn't have to travel with large sums, and that prevented, you know, a smaller target, shall we say, for banditry. So, in our case, I've got to stop and think about, I want to offer, or I want to have writs for this purpose, but who is going to underwrite the writs? We're going to probably go with moneylenders. Because I think in this case, our moneylenders are going to be a guild rather than an organization, although a guild is an organization, so that's kind of a double entendre there of yappery on my part. So, ooh, I got to turn that music down. But I think that's going to be the underlying concept there. There we go. Bring the music down a little bit in my headphones, as well as on the stream. Okay. As far as other expenses, are we going to have banks? Where is money kept? Yes. Where can it be invested? We will work those out as on an as-needed basis, because it's going to vary based on the kingdom versus the empire versus your dwarven society versus your elven society. I don't see elves building a bank. I see dwarves building a vault, but I don't see them building a bank. Although who knows? We could get crazy with this. Or even get crazy with, like, the goblins in Harry Potter, if you wanted to, for the banking. Oh, somebody's kicking their food ball. So that's kind of my thought process for the basic foundation of economics in my fantasy setting. Was 1 silver piece. And then 10 silver pieces is going to be 1 gold piece. That's kind of my scaling there. So literally, we'll take 100 coppers to equal 1 gold. But given the weight of coins, who wants to carry 100 coppers around? Okay. Let's switch gears and think about this in a fantasy setting. You know, Traveler uses the credit and mega credits for money. Starfinder uses the credit. So, what are we going to go with here? We're just going to say currency is going to be a credit. And then mega credit, which is going to be equal to what? That's going to be abbreviated M credit. Whoops, I did not want to take that full screen. Sorry about that. Average cost of a meal. You know, let's go with 12 credits. So how do we go? Let's see if there's any tables out here that are built for Starfinder. So, So looking at roll 20, bulk 3, price is 3, bulk L. I'm not sure what the bulk L measurement specifies. So are we going to say it's 3 credits? How did I write this out? Per meal, modest. I think we're going to follow the same format. Okay. Starfinder core rulebooks. How is this measured? Let's take a look at this. Yep, hang on, my mouse is acting wonky. Need to switch it completely to wireless. We're going to put that L in there until I do a little more digging and figure out how I want to phrase that. Okay. Ale, wine, mug, cup, glass. Okay. And then stay at an inn. We'll have to work on this. Going to store the money in the bank or in investment firms. Where can money be invested? Stocks, bonds, private ventures, VC, capitalism. Okay. So beyond that, I don't think we're going to get really extravagant with this. Just use this as a basic foundation. I'm not looking to write the damn Wall Street Journal as part of a game. Sorry, it's not my forte. If we're role-playing to that degree, then we're not role-playing. We're called, you know, virtualizing life. Let's not go there. It's meant to be fun. And I get it. I've got some folks that like to role-play, but let's not role-play to that degree. Now, you want to take them shopping for arms and equipment? We can go rounds with that all day long. That kind of role-playing. So, all right. I'm going to go physical and digital currency with Starfinder. I think we need to note that. Unbold it, but I do want to italicize it. Okay. Are you going to create traveler's checks? Oh my god, I'm really showing my age here with that joke. Let's let it go. We're not going to do writs here. At least not in that, I mean, think about it. That's what a traveler's check is. It's a writ. Anyways, let's just... Somebody please stop me. Alright. So, switching gears, family units in a family groups in a fantasy setting, right? Common family structure is going to be husband, wife, children, grandparents. Head of the family is typically going to be your husband. Sorry, we're not going to get gender crazy tonight. Role of older generation is to raise the young. Role of the younger generation is going to be to work, if I can spell it, to help contribute. Household. outside influences or strife. Outside influences. I think I actually want to break these down. Helps if I spell grandparents right. Gotta love when it's underlined with the squiggles. Okay. Outside influences. Economics. I mean, let's not get into employment, all that craziness, but religious influences could have a bearing on it. The other influences could be military conscription from politics. Okay. Religious influence on family groups. I mean, you could have your brothers at the monastery. What else could we think of? I mean, are we dealing with a polytheistic environment, typically in a fantasy world, not a monotheistic. So there's that. But some of your religious orders are going to be more ascetic and solo type ventures than a family type adventures. So religion, this is going to vary. In the case of your I'm thinking back to like Raymond Feist's Rift War series, where at the age of 15, all of the tradesmen, in this case at the keep at Cryde, selected the youths for apprenticeships, and so your guilds could have political weight on this as well, on family groups. Probably more from a career perspective than an actual family unit perspective. And that's probably something I need to save for that section when we get to it. Families outside the norm. I mean, you know, it's going to be rare for a single parent, but it's going to happen. You know, parent dies due to war, disease, whatever. And then you're going to have your communal species. You know, it takes a village to raise a child type of thing. Probably going to be more prevalent in, say, elven society than human society. Where do dwarven orphans go? I don't know. I have to think about that. But that kind of rounds out family groups in a fantasy setting. Like I said, it's going to be a little short and sweet tonight as far as fleshing these out. In a sci-fi setting, it'll be husband, wife, and children. grandparents. Could be head of the family, could be the husband or the wife. The role of the older generation. Again, common theme is going to be helping with the raising of the young. You know? Role of the younger generation. Going to be seeking education, trade, / skill, or secondary education. Outside influences. You know, in a sci-fi world, I'm going to be more inclined to deal with the economics, the employment, and then military situations that separates families. It could be employment. Sometimes mom or dad has to work away. It could be war, strife. Military service can separate a family. Single parent. You could have, okay, I guess I'm showing my LGBTQ friendliness here. You could have, you know, same-sex parents. I mean, it happens in this day and age in our society. Whether I'm going to write it up in my game environment, I don't know. But let's at least acknowledge it exists, and if I've got a player that wants a backstory of that type, then I'm going to be supportive of it. It's not a problem for me. I think we will go with that as our framework and let it be. It's a game, right? And if the players want to play that way, let them play that way. I'm not going to have an issue with that. Gender roles. Okay. In a fantasy world. Okay, so first of all, I'm not going to get crazy with male, female, non-binary, that stuff. We're just going to go with the way the gods designed them, male and female in both settings. If a player wants to go another route, then we can go another route. Traditional gender roles in a fantasy setting, you know, we're going to go with the males typically being your hunters and gatherers. Female traditionally in the home, but it's not going to be unheard of. I mean, you're going to hire cooks. There could be female cooks. There could be female child care. And just let it be, you know. It doesn't need to get crazy. Oh my goodness. Let's see what Angeline has in here. Just to kind of spur or spark my thought processes a little more, because it's been a minute since I read this section. You know, are different educations going to be offered based on gender? No. I'm an equal opportunity educator. I think probably if there's any kind of class differentiation, it's going to be more along the lines of your nobility versus your commoners type stuff than it is going to be your gender type stuff. I'm not going to get mired down in this for A, I'm not wanting to get that granular with it, and B, it's just something that people want to argue about, and I'm not here to argue. I'm here to have fun and play a game, right? So I'm not going to get absolutely entrenched on dying on a particular hill for a political viewpoint inside of a game. I'm not. Um, some of your opportunities are going to vary. With religious orders, you might have a predominantly female religious order. Um, for example, drow priestesses constitute the upper hierarchy of the worshippers of Lolth. Now, that's not to say that they don't have male acolytes and male soldiers as part of the worship of Lolth, but your actual clergy, as we will call it in this case, although I'm going to use that term loosely with drow, are going to be female. Lolth is pictured as a female drow, and commonly as a giant spider. So you're going to have some different things there depending on your cultures. So I'm not going to get bogged down in writing all of this out for either fantasy or sci-fi. But at least I can say, yeah, I looked at it. I'm not going to go nuts with it. And it's not that I'm not acknowledging other viewpoints. I certainly am. If a player wants to write something, into their backstory, then by all means, write it into your backstory. It's your character. It's who you want to be in the game. Likewise, I love as a DM when a character has a well-written backstory or has some things that I can use as story hooks to make the game more personal. This is one area that a lot of groups are lacking, including my current one, that we don't really have character backstories written. We have their backgrounds of their character defined, but that's typically a lumped described category straight out of the player's handbook, like acolytes. Acolytes, let me pronounce it properly, or at least attempt to, or soldiers, or things of that nature. Those are clearly written up and defined in the SRD and the player's handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide. So I don't feel the need to go crazy with those. But there are opportunities there for story hooks as well. But a player that takes the time to write their character backstory, that usually gives a lot of wiggle room for DM discretion in creating really well-connected, meaningful games. So, and to me, it's more about how can we, as a group, this is the player's story, not mine. I just kind of throw things together and create adventures and try to make it meaningful with what resources I have available and what I know of my players' likes and dislikes, and go from there. But it's kind of more of a collective story writing / type narrative with some players and less so with others. You have your hack and slash groups, aka your murder hobos. You have those who like to role play, and that's where you get your adventures like Candlekeep Mysteries and things of that nature. And then you have the multiverse kind of encompassing it all, so you can go anywhere, do anything, be anything type of environment. So, and that's part of the appeal for me for role-playing games. It's not we get up and go to work every day, which we do that in real life, so let's not do that in the game. Anyways, I have really digressed off into left field here. Let me try to focus here. Gender roles and fantasy world setting. Um, you know, I'm going to duplicate some here. But, we are an equal opportunity universe. So, females can have jobs and careers the same as men. And that's not to say that they can't in my fantasy settings. You might run into the odd female soldier here, or a male or female cook employed in a noble's household, all kinds of stuff. You could have your private tutors in your noble houses that are basically responsible for the education of the noble's children. I think that's pretty much as far as I want to dive into that. That leaves us kind of light tonight in terms of content, but it is what it is. Let's think about this from a perspective, and let's rewind a little bit to look at in a family group setting, let's say outside of humans. Let's go with elves and dwarves. Your elven family's definitely going to involve elders, because this is a long-lived species. And is this going to be a situation where, humans, it's common to have twins periodically? Being that this is a long-lived species, I think it's going to be smaller family units, one, maybe two children. A elven family with 3 children is going to be kind of unheard of, and twins is going to be extremely rare. How does that impact the family group? It's going to be a case of, small, tight-knit families in an elven community, but the community itself has a very strong sense of family. How is religion going to affect that? Just like, careers could affect it. In a human civilization, in a elven civilization, are you going to have, elven families where the elf is let's take and use wood elves as an example. Elven rangers, elven soldiers. Are they going to come home to their families every night, or is that more of a solitary lifestyle? So there's impacts there to think about in terms of other cultures. What about dwarves? Look at a dwarven culture. Are you going to have the same type of issues? Dwarves being typically subterranean mountain dwarves and stone dwarves, and you still have your hill dwarves, but they're going to be digging around in the dirt looking for something. So miners, I can see dwarven families consisting of mother, father, children, aunts, uncles. There's a reason dwarves are a clan-driven society, because the family group is going to be much larger than your typical human family. A clan's going to band together and build a subterranean keep to protect their mines. Or in the case of mountain dwarves that are not subterranean, they're going to build fortifications and clan halls and things of that nature. But your dwarven family unit's going to be a much larger group than, say, your human or elven family units. So how does that impact the things like gender roles? You know, a little hard to specify gender roles when dwarven chicks can grow beards just as long as dwarven dudes can. Hey, it's a fantasy setting. We can have fun with it, right? So, just food for thought. Things that I can mull over as I'm writing sessions. Which that's ultimately where all this is going. This is all going to be fodder and feed for designing a game that is going to span multiple sessions or even one shots. So the goal is to use the world building materials, the content that I'm building up, to develop a campaign or campaigns, as well as just one-off, one-shot adventures for adventuring. Pardon me, I got to get something to drink here. Ooh. Sometimes those little drink packets are a little stout. Might need to add some more water to that. Whew. In your sci-fi settings, let's look at, you have space elves and space dwarves and Starfinder, but let's take a look at Traveler, where you have the Aslan, which is your feline species, and then your Vargr, which is your canine species. Are they going to be small family units in the Aslan, and then larger family units in the Vargr? Think in terms of like almost a pack mentality in the case of the Vargr. So that family unit can kind of be an extended aunts, uncles, mom, dad, siblings, cousins type setting as well. Just food for thought. What does, and I know I'm kind of bouncing back to it, what does Dragonborn or Tabaxi family groups resemble in a fantasy environment? Tabaxi being feline, Dragonborn being, well, Dragonborn. Dragonborn is written up as being very clannish, very similar to dwarves in that respect. So the assumption I make as a DM is that this is a larger family unit, more of a extended nuclear family. Again, going back to dwarves as a good reference for that type of setting. So I probably need to throw some notes in here. Go dwarves, Dragonborn, smaller family units with elves and Tabaxi. Let's throw some bad guys into this conversation as well that are not player character races other than half-orcs. Your orcs are going to be more clan-based. In the case of husband or father, or in the case of your clans, it can be a clan chief that is the head of the family. Right? Just some food for thought. I'm not going to go into those same details here, but, well, yeah, actually, We've talked about Aslan and Vargr in the case of Traveler, and there's really not been, that I've seen, an example of this. Let me see if I can find something real quick, just for... Anything on family structure? No, not really. Civilization. Upright biped canines. We already knew that. Yeah, doesn't go really into the details. I would go with more of a pack mentality. With the Vargr. So that would kind of reference Traveler there. Just kind of food for thought to put it together. So I think that kind of fleshes it out as much detail as I want to really give it. Let's look ahead. Next, we're going to be looking at employment. Typical age for starting work, retirement, high status jobs, employment rights, vacancies, work/life balance. Nothing we want to dive too head first into. Class divides. I think I can combine these together for next session. Religious and spiritual belief structure. This I think I want to spend more time on because it's time to start developing my my pantheon of deities, especially in my fantasy setting. To that end, I hate to spend more money, but I'm going to spend more money because that's what DMs do. Back in the day, sorry for throwing that such a cliche term out there. Back in the day, you had the source book deities and demigods, and they carried it forward to at least the 3.5 edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Did they release it for 4th edition? Let me look. I know for a fact that there was a 3.5 edition. Oh, I'm trying not to sneeze. So the third edition is really the fourth edition, but when they released 4E rules, it looks like they did not release a revised version for it. So the 3.5 or the 3.0 is really the kind of the end of it. But it's probably time for me to go ahead and break down and hit it up on eBay. Yes, I can go out to Drive Through RPG or DM's Guild and get the PDF, which I will probably do anyways, just because I like to be able to search documents or source books. But it's I'm also a little bit of a freak when it comes to like having a book. So, but for structuring religious and spiritual beliefs, I like to do a little more research. I know that the deities and demigods gets into a lot of your Greek and Roman pantheons and background information there, and then comes out with your flat out structure for your gods of the Forgotten Realms. But it's predominantly your Greco-Roman pantheon, your Egyptian pantheon, and your Asgardian, your Norse pantheons. But I like to have something to draw from and look at and use as a foundation. So means my butt needs to break down and order this book pretty quick, because we're probably 2 weeks away from this session by the looks of it. If that's going to be session 22. Let's see. Yeah, employment, class divides, and then religion. So that I want to break down and go ahead and take that dive. Also tying that into session 24, festivals and celebrations, because we're going to have your religious festivals as well as your calendar-based celebrations, midsummer, midwinter, those type of things, based on your solstices and equinoxes. Anyways, I think I'm going to kind of wrap this up this evening. We are supposed to be playing Saturday. I will confirm that with my players, like right now, while we're online and streaming and chatting with y'all. Let's see. Are we playing D&D? So while we're talking about this, I've already espoused this. If anybody's interested in playing with us online, to please message me. You can direct message me on Twitch. You can hit me up via our Facebook page, Twitter. You could also email me at brian@huskyhouserpgs.com. Any of those methods. But I'm also on RPG Match now. And probably going to use that as a potential recruiting tool for finding gamers. And I'm contemplating putting myself on startplaying.games, but you have to have a campaign or session built and kind of have a schedule. And to me, I'd rather have the group and find out what the group wants to do. Do you want to travel in the Forgotten Realms? Do you want to homebrew? To me, it's kind of putting the cart in front of the horse, going with the startplaying.games. So I'm kind of leaving that as my method of last resort. I'd like to gather a group of players and solicit input as to what they want to play, and then work out any scheduling adjustments. Weekend adventures might become a weeknight adventures. Who knows? So that's for future thought. So anyways, appreciate you tuning in tonight, and hopefully Oh, one of my players says we're playing this weekend. I know, excuse me, at least one other that'll be playing, so I just need a confirmation from the last player. But definitely hit me up on one of those platforms, and we will fold you into the game, or if I have enough interest, I will put together a separate group and stream games more frequently. So, all right, have a great rest of your evening. We will see you Saturday. We will probably begin the run-up to game start. Probably start the run-up around 6:30 Saturday evening. Try to get the game rocking and rolling no later than 7. If I can drag all my players into line. I've got plenty of stuff lined out for them. I'm not going to divulge anything here tonight because one of them might be listening, and I don't want them to have an advantage. But just to suffice to say, it's going to be an interesting evening. When the DM smiles, it's already too late. Have a great rest of your evening, and we will see you Saturday.
Mic off. Charging battery.